The NFL draft is just 5 days away, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have now finished all of their pre-draft visits, and this is everyone who the Steelers have met with. So, each team is allotted up to 30 visits, not including local visitors from schools like Pitt, West Virginia, and those who went to high school in the Pittsburgh region. And what happens in these meetings? Well, these players actually get to come in person, not a Zoom call. Come in person, get to see the Pittsburgh Steelers facility, the workout room, the field, everything like that, and also get to meet with everyone in the building, and head coach Mike Tomlin gets to talk in person with them. So does Omar Khan, Art Rooney, and everyone like that. So, before I get into the 30 people the Steelers brought in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates, and also like the video. Let's get right back into the list. So before I get into the list of players, let me just put the offensive side of the ball of the players list on the screen right now. Just in case I mess up any names, I probably will. These are the players that the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in on the offense. So to start this list, I'm going to start off with the offensive side of the ball, and specifically wide receivers. So I'm going to list the position, the player, the school, and then the week or the day that we know the Steelers met with the player. So to start off this list, wide receiver Ricky Parcell from Florida. Week of March 18th is when they met with him. Wide receiver Malachi Corley, Western Kentucky. They met April 1st. Wide receiver Xavier Legette, South Carolina, March 21st. Wide receiver Tajee Washington from USC, April 3rd. Wide receiver Luke McCaffrey from Rice, April 4th. Wide receiver A.D. Mitchell from Texas, April 9th. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey from Georgia. We don't know the date that he met with the Steelers, but he met with them. So, those are the wide receivers the Pittsburgh Steelers have met with and brought into the facility. As you could count, the Steelers brought in 7 wide receivers to the facility. Now, moving over to the offensive line, the Steelers brought in offensive tackle Travis Glover from Georgia State on March 21st. Offensive tackle Talise Fuga from Oregon State, March 21st. They brought in offensive tackle Troy Fatanu from Washington on April 15th. They brought in Talise Fuga from Oregon State on March 21st. They brought in offensive tackle Amarius Mims from Georgia. We don't know the date that he met with the Steelers, but he did. Offensive lineman Matt Goncalves from Pittsburgh, April 3rd, local visit. So this does not count to the 30. They've also met with offensive lineman Stephen Jones from Oregon on April 4th. They met with offensive lineman Mason McCormick from South Dakota State on April 15th. They met with offensive tackle Blake Fisher from Notre Dame on April 10th. Offensive tackle Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma on April 11th. And offensive tackle Travis Clayton from United Kingdom on April 17th. They also met with centers now. So those are the offensive tackles the Steelers met with. And these are the centers. They met with Jackson Powers Johnson, Oregon, April 10th. Zach Frazier from West Virginia, April 12th. This is a local visit, so it does not count to the 30. They also met with center Graham Barton from Duke on April 16th. And the last offensive lineman they met with was Hunter Zorzad from Penn State on April 17th. So the Pittsburgh Steelers in total, in terms of offensive linemen, offensive guards, and offensive tackles, they met with quite a few of them. And centers, they met with the top centers as well. So this is all the offensive linemen that the Pittsburgh Steelers have met with, and all the offensive players the Steelers brought in for the 30 visits allowed. On the screen right now are the defensive players, all of them that the Pittsburgh Steelers met with on the pre-draft visits. I'm probably going to mess up some names, so these are the players just in case if I do. Now, moving over to the defensive side of the ball, these are the defensive players the Steelers brought in on their 30 visits. So, let's start off with the defensive lineman. Once again, I'm going to go position, then I'm going to go player, school, and then the date that they met with the player. So to start off, they met with defensive tackle Braden Fisk from Florida State on April 2nd. They also met with defensive tackle Christian Boyd from Northern Iowa on April 11th. They met with defensive lineman Darius Robinson from Missouri mid to late March. Don't know the exact date, but that's around the time they met with him. They met with defensive lineman Mason Smith from LSU on April 3rd. They met with defensive lineman Logan Lee from Iowa on April 8th. And they met with defensive lineman Jaden Crumdy from Mississippi State on April 9th. So these are all the defensive linemen the Pittsburgh Steelers have met with in their pre-draft visits. And this is a total of 6 defensive linemen. Now, let's move over to the inside linebackers. They met with 2 inside linebackers, those being inside linebacker Peyton Wilson from NC State on April 16th, inside linebacker Junior Colson from Michigan on April 17th. Now, moving over to the defensive backs, the cornerbacks the Steelers have met with in this pre-draft visits. Let's start off with cornerback MJ Devonshire from Pittsburgh on April 3rd, which was a local visit. Cornerback Andrew Phillips from Kentucky on April 2nd. Cornerback Nate Wiggins from Clemson on April 4th. Cornerback Max Milton from Rutgers on April 8th. Cornerback Daquan Hardy from Penn State, April 2nd, which was a local visit. They also met with cornerback Beanie Bishop from West Virginia on April 12th, local visit. And cornerback Cooper DeJean from Iowa on April 12th. So these are all the cornerbacks that the Pittsburgh Steelers have confirmed met with in the pre-draft visit era. So this is a total of 7 cornerbacks the Steelers met with. And these are all the defensive players just in total that the Steelers met with in the pre-draft visits. So just to recap, in total, on offense, the Pittsburgh Steelers met with a total of 21 players in person, and on defense, 15 total players. Obviously, that equals to more than 30, but like I said, local visits do not count towards the 30 players that you can meet with. So when you look at the players that have confirmed met with the Steelers, those are the guys. Those are the people on the list. But also, there are some people that were scheduled to meet with the Steelers, that like cornerback Sean Stephens from Friends State, and also like quarterback Michael Penix. They were rumored that they met with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it was not confirmed, so they still could have met with them, but it just wasn't confirmed, so they weren't like the confirmed list. So I didn't include them on the list of the players, but those are the guys that were also rumored that met with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I'm still going to make a video on this, kind of going through what this actually tells us about the Steelers draft day plans, but just to kind of recap this and recap these meetings, this doesn't take into account the pro days that the Pittsburgh Steelers went to. We all know how important that is, because some of the players they brought in for the visits, they did not go to their pro day. And we all know the Steelers routine there. They usually like going to the players' pro days if they're their first round pick, second round pick, and things like that. So it doesn't include the pro days. It doesn't include the pro days dinner. But I did make a video about every player the Pittsburgh Steelers did visit and go to dinners with at the pro days, and basically every school that they went to at the pro day as well. So if you want to go check it out, it's on the channel. I made a video about that. But also just looking at this in general, also just because they didn't go to the pro day, but they met with them in person, it still is very important, because when you look at the past years that the Pittsburgh Steelers, history has shown a strong correlation between the players the team brings in and the ones they end up drafting later in the month. For example, just last year alone, the Steelers selected offensive tackle Broderick Jones in the first round, defensive lineman Keanu Benton in the second round, Darnell Washington tight end in the third round. They also brought in cornerback Joey Porter Jr., who was a local visit, but was still one of the visits that they brought in. So all those players I named, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they brought in prior to the draft to see the facility. on the 30 visits that they were allowed and just to meet with everyone in the building. So we see how important it was in those top 3 rounds that the Pittsburgh Steelers selected. Every single player they ended up drafting was brought in on a visit. So this is the list of the Pittsburgh Steelers 30 visits, and they aren't really hiding what they're doing. I'm going to get more into it, but obviously you could tell of all the positions they brought in the top guys at center, they brought in most of the top guys at offensive tackle and cornerback. So they're meeting with all the top players, and they brought in a ton of offensive and defensive linemen. But that's for another day. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about the players the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in for the pre-draft visits and everything that you kind of got out of this video in terms of what position they may be looking at first round, second round, third round, or maybe positions that they're most interested in. And out of these players, which player would you want the Pittsburgh Steelers to select in round 1 and throughout the draft? Just give me your mock draft down in the comments below. And also, like I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you turn notifications for this channel and subscribe so you never miss out on anything Pittsburgh Steelers draft and news, as it's right around the corner, covering everything involving the draft, just like I covered everything involving free agency and the season. So make sure you turn on those notifications so you never miss out on Pittsburgh Steelers news. And until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.